Hello all, and thank you for listening to another video of Mr. Laxton talking through these Algebra 2 section 5.6 notes today. So today is going to be the last way that we're going to learn how to solve quadratics. So we are going to learn to solve quadratics today by using the quadratic formula. Okay, and I would highly suggest that you scan this little QR code over here and listen to the song I just did to get myself a little pumped up for this video. So the quadratic formula is the negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a, negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. That's the song that they sing. I obviously cannot sing it as well as they can. So if you've stopped listening by now, I don't blame you, but that is the quadratic formula. We're going to use that a bunch of times. All right, so here's the quadratic formula. We're really just going to plug it in here and chug. All right, so we're just really going to plug in my a, b, and my c into this formula, and then we're going to solve. So as I look here, if I remember, my a is in front of my x squared, so here it's 1. My b is this negative 4, and my c is 3. Okay, so now I'm just going to plug it in. So that x is equal to negative b, so that's going to be 4 plus or minus the square root of negative 4 squared minus 4. A is 1, and my c is 3. All right, all over 2 times my a, which is 1. All right, awesome. So as I go through here, now I can just go through and solve. But be careful here, you gotta do PEMDAS. All right, I like to just leave this 4 plus or minus out here for now. The square root is what I have to deal with first. Negative 4 squared is going to be positive 16. And then 4 times 1 times 3 is going to be minus 12. And then now on the bottom, 2 times 1 is obviously just 2. All right. So now here, let's look here. I have 4 plus or minus the square root of 4 over 2. And I know that, hey, this is going to be 4 plus or minus 2 over 2. So not all the times this is a nice number, but hey, in this case it is. The square root of 4 is 2, so now these are my two answers. I have 4 plus 2 over 2, and I have 4 minus 2 over 2. So 4 plus 2 over 2 is going to be what? 6 divided by 2, which is 3. And then my second answer is going to be 4 minus 2, which is 2 over 2, which is 1. So again, solving quadratics, how many answers should we get? 2. All right. So here x equals 3, x equals 1. All right. Now, as we go on, use the quadratic formula to solve this. And this one's a little bit trickier because not everything's on the same side. So I got a minus the 5x, I'm going to add the 9. So minus the 5x, add the 9 over to this side as well. So now I get what? X squared minus 6x plus 9 is equal to 0. Okay, so you got to have it equal to 0 here. So now I have my a, b, and c to plug into this quadratic formula. So now I go x equals the opposite of b, which is going to be 6, plus or minus the square root of negative 6 squared minus 4, it's always 4, times my a, which is 1 again, and my c, which is 9. Okay, all over 2 times my a value, which is 1. All right, so here we go. 6 plus or minus 6 plus or minus the square root of negative 6 squared is 36 minus 4 times 9 is 36 all over 2. So notice here that I have 6 plus or minus the square root of 0 over 2. All right, awesome. So here we go, and 6 plus or minus the square root of 0, so that's going to be just 6 over 2. So here I get my answer is 6 over 2, which is 3. And 3 actually happens twice in this equation, and that's okay. All right, and that's okay. So 3 does happen twice. That's what that means. All right, so now here, example number 3, we have to use the quadratic formula. I already know this one. Hey, it's my a, b, and my c. It's already in that standard form here for me, so I get x equals the opposite of b, which is -1, plus or minus the square root of my -1 squared minus 4 times my a, which is 1, times my c, which is -1, all over 2 times 1. All right. So here we go. Let's go through and plug this guy in and chug. So I get -1 plus or minus the square root of -1 squared is 1. And then here is going to be, sometimes I like to make this plus a negative because this is a negative times a negative, which is going to be plus 5. Oh, excuse me, 4 all over 2. All right. So this is a 4. All right, -4 times 1 and then times -1 is going to be positive 4. So that's the part that some people get stuck up on, is what is it positive, what is it negative. All right, so here we go. Now I get -1 plus or minus the square root of 5 over 2. All right, and here as we look at the square root of 5 is not a nice number. So here, this is just my answer. Done. All right, can't simplify that anymore. We are completed. Okay, so here we go. Discriminant. So this discriminant, as we looked here, we had a couple different types. We had 2 solutions up here for this one. We had 1 solution for this, and then we had 2 for this as well, because it's got that plus or minus. So this discriminant can tell us how many solutions this guy has. All right, so the discriminant is just this. It's just the b squared minus 4ac. Okay, you might want to highlight that for yourself. The discriminant is just the b squared minus 4ac. It doesn't have the b plus or minus the square root part all over 2a. It's just the part underneath the square root. So here, if I look at this, and this is going to kind of hopefully start to make a little sense, if b squared minus 4ac is greater than 0, we're going to have 2 real solutions. All right, so as I look here, this b squared minus 4ac, this part underneath the square root here was 4 in this first one. That gave me 2 real solutions. All right, so now if this is actually 0, it's going to give me 1 real solution. All right, and as I look here, if my b squared minus 4ac, notice here I had 36 minus 36 gave me 0. That gave me 1 answer is 3. Okay, and if it's less than 0, so if it's negative, we're going to have 2 imaginary solutions. Okay, because that's going to have like the square root of like -5 or something. All right, and that's going to give me i's. All right, I squared of 5. All right, awesome. So here it just asks us to use the discriminant to determine how many solutions that these guys have. So now I have an A, B, and a C, and an A, B, and a C, and an A, B, and a C. So now let's just go through and plug these into b squared minus 4ac and see if it gives us an answer that is greater than 0, equal to 0, or less than 0. Okay, b squared is going to be my 5 squared minus 4 times my a, and then my c is 2. So this is going to be 25 minus 8, which is going to be 17. So this is obviously a positive number. 17 is greater than 0, so this is going to be 2 real. All right. Awesome. Number 5, the one in the middle. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. My b squared is 3 squared minus 4 times my a, which is -2, and my c, which is -7. So as I look here, this is going to be 9 plus, and I like to make this just plus a -4. Negative times a negative is going to be a negative, or negative times a negative times a negative, because notice here that there's 3 negatives. Is going to be a negative. So 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 7 is 56. So 9 plus a -56. I know that's going to be some negative answer. You really probably don't even have to find out what the actual negative answer is, but it is -47, which I know is less than 0. So this has 2 imaginary solutions. All right. Awesome. And number 6, as I move on to this last one, my b squared is going to be 12 squared minus 4. My a is 9, and my c is 4. So here this is going to be 144 minus 4 times 9 is 36. Times 4 is actually 144. So I notice here that 144 minus 144 is 0. So this guy has 1 real solution. Okay, so again, that discriminant can come in handy to find out, hey, how many times or how many solutions does this have? And then we're going to look at in chapter 7, I believe, we're going to look at that a solution is actually an x-intercept. Okay, so how many times does this graph actually cross that x-intercept? All right, awesome. So negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. All right, that's going to be important. Got to remember that to use that quadratic formula to solve for what these solutions are. And then really just kind of the tough part is the PEMDAS in here in all this work to find out what my answers actually are. So again, thank you for listening to that video. I'm Mr. Laxton talking through those quadratic formula notes. Make sure you listen to that song. You get it stuck in your head like I do.